What up, everybody? It's your boy DFS Up North here with DFS Army for another PGA podcast. It is the last event of the 2022 season, the Tour Championship at East Lake Golf Club. We got you covered with everything you need to know. We got a funky format. We only got 30 players in the field. I'm going to tell you how I'm going to build lineups this week. We're going to go over every single player in the field, and we're going to help you guys win the big bucks this week. Let's get it. Good morning. All righty then. What up, everybody? It's your boy DFS Up North. Like I said, I am here with DFS Army talking about the Tour Championship. So it is the culmination of the 2021-2022 season. We are still doing the wraparound season here, but getting ready for the Tour Championship here in East Lake. Like I said, it is a funky tournament this week. Guys start at different scores already. So Scotty Scheffler, he's number one in the FedEx Cup point standings. He is going to start the tournament at -10, and everybody else has to catch him, right? So it's a little bit different. We got pricing's different. We get guys down into the 5,000s like it's 2016 again. So there's a lot going on this week, and it's tricky. So I'm gonna do my best to explain it. Like I said earlier, we're gonna go through the course. We're gonna go through kind of the entire field. We're gonna talk about winning lineups, how lineups were built last year, how I'm planning on building lineups this week to give myself the most leverage, all that and more coming up. But first, if you want to get access to my cheat sheets where I break this down even further, we got NFL coming up. You know, we got a meeting this week on Wednesday. We're just going to kind of get our schedule ready for the year and talk about what we're going to be offering this year. As usual, I'll be doing that 10 under 10, so your 10 leverage plays for the main slates on Sundays. I'll also be covering showdowns for you guys again, so I'm excited about NFL. But if you want to get with us, you want to become a DFS Army VIP, give us a month try, right? Use that code UPNORTH that gets you 10% off VIP for life, right? So that brings that $69.99 down a month down to about $60 a month. You can win takedown contests just like all these guys have been doing. It was a really, really good week for us. We were all over Stallings last week. Had a nice week for a lot of our DFS Army VIPs. Big shout out to Kanger. I know he's upset at Patrick Cantlake getting it done. Cost him a bunch of money, but still a pretty good week for the kid. Leading into NFL, where we all know the big bucks are. So FedEx Cup Championship here at East Lake. Before we kind of get into the format and how that works, let's talk about the course. All right, East Lake Golf Club. So basically, this was built in 1904 by Tom Bendelow. It was Atlantic Athletic Club put a course in I want to say 1902. Atlanta Athletic Club. I can't remember, but their membership grew in so much that they bought this plot of land and it built East Lake here. Don Ross came through and finished the course. Bendelow, I think, built 7 or 8 holes. Young Donald Ross coming over from Scotland, finished the course with the 18 that they have. Reese Jones came in and did this again in 1994 to kind of bring it back up. And then when the tour decided that they were going to host the Tour Championship here, he updated it again in 2008 and then in 2016 just to kind of deal with the length of some of these players. But a very, very classic course. Atlanta. So if you guys know, this is where Bobby Jones got his start. His family moved to the suburbs of Atlanta and started playing golf here. And this is where young Bobby Jones honed his craft on these fairways and bunkers and, competed, obviously won the Grand Slam. But his younger career is what's most impressive to me. Guy was like competing in the top 4 of the U.S. Amateur at 14 years old, arguably had a chance to win, struggled with his temper a little bit. And this course, maybe can do that to you. There is a decent amount of water here. We've got 74 sand bunkers, 5 water hazards in play. It is a par 70, 73, 46. So pretty long for a par 70. We got Bermuda grass on the greens and then that beautiful Zoysia in the fairways, and then in the rough, it is 2.5 inches Bermuda grass. It might be a little bit longer. There's been tons of rain on the course. Usually they close the course in July, rehab it. And I think they closed it for 14 days and they got rain on 8. So they weren't able to do what they typically do. So the course might actually play a little bit tougher this year than it has in the past. Average score per round last year was -1.2. 10.3 yards smaller in the fairway here. All right. So the fairways are 10.3 yards narrower than they normally are on tour. So the missed fairway penalty is pretty high. It's about a half a stroke on a missed fairway. So it's an interesting golf course in that you really have either a wedge or a long iron into a lot of these holes. There's not a lot of mid irons out there. So that 150-yard shot isn't quite there. But the 100 to 125, and then anything over 200 yards. So just the way that the course is routed, we tend to see guys hit more of those shots than normal. We're going to talk about a guy who really does that well here in a minute. What we've seen in the past year is that these greens aren't super difficult. They are turtleback Don Ross greens, which tends to approach shots that are a little bit offline will funnel off the greens, so you're gonna have to be good around the greens. But you don't really like I said, you don't really need to putt well here. We've not seen in the many iterations of this tournament somebody come through and kind of putt their way to a victory. Even Kevin Na last year, who shot -14 and would have had the stroke play, gone to a playoff with Jon Rahm if this was just straight up stroke play. He putted well, but he was really good tee to green too. So it's not a course that you can just get hot with the putter and overtake. So it's an interesting, I think it's a really good test of golf. We've seen kind of the average winning score here be -14, -13, -10. And they, obviously with how they kind of play the FedEx Cup Championship, it's a little bit different. So let's talk about this is the winning lineup from last year. You guys can look at this while I talk about the format, but basically, right, we have the top 30 golfers in the FedEx Cup standings. Scotty Scheffler is number 1, so he is going to start the tournament at -10. Patrick Cantlay is number 2. He will start at -8. Xander Schauffele is 3rd. He will start at -7, I believe. So being at the top of the FedEx Cup standings obviously gives you a big bump. And what we saw last year was that Patrick Cantlay came in as number 1. He shot -11 for the week. So he finished at -21. All right. Jon Rahm shot -14 for the week and didn't win. Well, when you start at, I think it was -6 for the week is where he started. He finished at -21 or -20. Cantlay wins by a stroke. All right. So it's tricky. All right. It's tricky how we build our lineup. So if we actually look, this is the winning lineup from last year. And because Patrick Cantlay didn't really kind of crush, right? He shot -11, which would have been like 6th or 7th best score. He actually wasn't in the winning lineup in the $5 GPP. So we look at the lineup. We got Jon Rahm, 118 points. Justin Thomas, Kevin Na actually fantasy outscored Jon Rahm. They both shot -14 for the week. Xander Schauffele, who just crushes here, Daniel Berger, and Billy Horschel. So we see a pretty strong stars and scrubs lineup at the top here. Total ownership percentage of 145. Whoa, that seems high. But you got to remember, we're only dealing with 30 golfers here. All right. So our ownership, anything over this is going to be chalk, right? But even Justin Thomas at 19.5%, like anything under 20% this week is you're feeling pretty good about your ownership in terms of trying to build leverage. You look at the second place lineup. First place was duped twice. Second place had, I think, twice or one. And this was Rahm, Thomas, Schauffele, Kevin Na, Billy Horschel, and they played a Deadman, Eric Van Rooyen. And then third place, this lineup was duped like 20 sometimes. Even at 100, even at the lowest ownership of all of those guys, it's just about kind of where you end up. And some like this 75 and 91, right? Like guys don't need to absolutely crush here for you to be in the nuts, but you got to get the guys who are going to score. Like you look at to do anything last week, you had to have last year you had to have Kevin Na and Jon Rahm, right? They shot the 2 best scores of the week. You had to have them. And position points don't matter as much as you think, right? So I think what you'll see is people get very into the Scotty Scheffler's playing starting at -10, so-and-so's at whatever. But what you got to remember is that in the grand scheme of things, like obviously the 30 points for first place is big, but clearly not big enough to overcome even a top 3 lineup, right? For Cantlay to get in there. And the difference between 7th place and 30th place is 7 points. So that's 2 birdies, right? The position points just don't matter as much. You need the guys who are going to score. So a guy that goes from 30th to 14th might be better than a guy that goes from 5th to 9th, right? He's going to outscore them. So don't get so hung up at the top of the leaderboard. All right, is what I'm saying this week. Play the good plays, but don't get so hung up, like I said, at the top of the leaderboard this week. All right. So what this tells me is, and you look here, and the same sort of thing is kind of how it's been done before, but what this tells me is that stars and scrubs sort of lineup is likely to be successful. What that also tells me is that stars and scrub lineup is also going to be very, very popular. So I think there's some intrigue in GPPs and building sort of more from this like $8,900 range than there is, at least in like the large, like the $5, right? Like that big contest where you're playing against 100,000 other lineups. I have a lot of interest in kind of hammering that middle and hoping somebody goes off, right? Because essentially you need somebody to shoot -15, -14, even if they don't win, but going off and climbing that leaderboard and hopefully finishing second or third. So they get those like 20 points. That was these guys, all these lineups last year too. I think Cantlay would have been in them if there was a difference. Like, I don't believe if Na and Rahm both wouldn't have got second place points, right? That tie for second with both of them getting 20 points as opposed to 20 and 15 makes a huge difference in the final total. And those little things like that we don't always think about, but that can make a big difference. So like I said, I'm going to talk a little bit of strategy as we go through here, but we're going to talk about every single player in the field, starting from the bottom of the DraftKings pricing and all the way up to the top. And we start at the bottom with Tom Hoge at $5,000. Tom Hoge somehow got into the Tour Championship. I have no idea. I get that he won. If you win, it's pretty hard for you not to be in the Tour Championship at the end of the year. But he's been pretty bad. Okay, he did have a 4th place at the 3M, and the 3M is a comp course here. So I'm interested. His approach numbers have been really good, and I think that everybody kind of goes to Wise and Poston here. So if you're gonna play the Deadman guy, like I don't hate Tom Hoge here, especially he gets a stroke on those guys too. And I know I said that place doesn't matter, but when we're splitting hairs here, I don't mind playing the Tom Hoge at -1 already. $5,000 Deadman on both sides. All right, I think JT Postone is going to be really, really popular here. He doesn't rate out that well for me. Like, he's got to get hot with the putter for the week. Like I said, I don't think that the putting matters here that much. I'm going to be pretty underweight on Postone this week, but I will be all over Wise on that broomstick putter. He looked great last week. I was super impressed with with the way he played. And I am going to be in on Wise at 5,400, just sort of my initial build. I'm trying to get away, like I said, from that stars and scrubs lineup. I'm having a hard time doing it. And when I do get down to it, I am getting a lot of Aaron Wise down here at 5,400, 7,600 on FanDuel. So they priced him up a little bit there, but and I know that's pricing on FanDuel doesn't really matter. Next tier guys, we got Brian Harman, KH Lee, and Adam Scott, right? Harman's at -1. The little lefty hasn't been here in 5 years. When he did play here, it wasn't great, but I think he's interesting. He's playing some good golf, tee to green, needs to get that space chip putter going a little bit, but he has shown the ability to really crush it tee to green and play some bigger courses. So I find myself having a lot of Brian Harman this week at -1, especially in those stars and scrubs builds. KH Lee hasn't played here. He's been good. Like, I think he goes under-owned. I'm going to have some KH Lee. Adam Scott, we've been riding the Scott train. There's no reason to get off of it now, but he's going to be popular, right? Like, there's no reason to get off him, but he's going to be popular. Everybody's going to be on him after last week. So I think that's, for me, I hate to say it, but I'm probably going to be underweight on Scott. Building lineups earlier today, I was trying to get more Scott in my lineups, and it wasn't working for me to get him in there. So, and again, I think he's going to be overowned. I think he's going to climb around that 30% range, and that's going to be tough. Sahith Theegala, the guy is a baller. I love him, but he really struggled off the tee last week. And we talked about that half-stroke penalty for missing a fairway here. That's a death sentence, right? If he loses 5 strokes off the tee again this week, he is going to be in big trouble. Now, I will say, short game was outstanding. Great around the greens, putted well. But for me, I think I'll let others chase Theegala. I think that Horschel's, we're seeing signs of improvement there. He's obviously got a ton of love for East Lake. He won a tour championship here. He's like, there's signs. There's signs that his iron play is coming back. The putter was back, but he also struggled off the tee, something he always does. I think that Sepp Straka is the value of the day down here at 7,200. A little bit more priced up on FanDuel, but like, obviously, Straka was in the mix in the first playoff event. He got himself essentially into that, but wasn't bad last week. Wasn't bad at all. So I think Straka starting at -4, 7,200. I think that he is the value of the week down here. Stallings popped last week. Obviously, we were all over him. There's no reason for me to get off him now. I will say that his ownership's going to climb, right? Ownership's going to climb, but at 74 and 88, I'm going to have a decent amount of Scott Stallings this week. Starts at -3. Homa, just iron play has consistently gotten worse the last 3 weeks. I love Max Homa. I think he's a great player, but he is. I'm probably out on Homa this week at that price point. Jordan Spieth, like, weirdly continues to drive the ball really well. He was Harry Potter around the greens last week, was just magical, getting up and down, but he lost strokes putting, right? So I think he's doing a little positive regression there. And if he continues to drive the ball like that, I think Spieth could be maybe the sneaky GPP winning play this week at 7,800. So I'm going to be overweight on Jordan Spieth. Morikawa, he's too cheap. The putter held him back last week, and he made a 10 on him on a hole. That killed him last week. I think that he is. I kind of love, like I said earlier, I think that this mid-tier build is interesting this week, especially in GPPs, because not many people will do it. And these 3 guys here, or at least Morikawa and Connors, are going to be big parts of that. I think Morikawa's putter comes back. I think that Connors made a big charge at the board on Sunday. Maybe people get on him because of that, but he just drives the ball really well, and he's a lead approach. I think he's a great course fit here. And then Decky, he's going to carry very little ownership. I think he's intriguing. I say that word a lot. I think he's interesting, right? Like, he was not great last week. He looked still hurt. So the ownership should be low, but for me, I'm going to stick to these 2 guys over here. Outside of Rory, nobody really rates out better for me than Neiman, which is weird to think considering he was like second to last year. But from how I see this course playing, how he's playing, I really like Neiman. And like I said with Morikawa and Corey Connors, I think I wouldn't mind starting a lineup here with all 3 of these guys. Like, I don't hate that at all. Hovland was good here last week, but his iron play last year, because of his iron play, but last week his iron play was really suspect. I think it was just an anomaly. I think that comes back. We know he's an elite iron player. I will be on Hovland starting at -2, and then we're getting Fitzy at -3. Come on now. Like, I know he wasn't great last week, but given how this course has been played, like, I think that he is right in the mix. A classic Don Ross design, like, that is right up Fitzy's alley. So I will have a ton of him. Cam Young made me a little nervous on the fade last week, but he fell back on the weekend. I just think that he's going to be high owned again. People have this obsession with him. He's a good player. He can pop. But again, I just keep going back to, who is Cam Young? Is he the guy that finished second at the Open Championship, or is he the guy that missed 50% of the cuts on the KFT last year? And I tend to think that he had ceiling tournaments earlier this year, and now we are getting back towards more of the who he is, right? Was -7 after round 2 last week, and then finished at -5, or like, he struggled on the weekend, right? Like, I think that he is a guy who can pop for a round, pop for maybe 2, but in a position like this at this price, like, I can see Aaron Wise doing the same thing. And I'm not saying Cameron Young is a much better player than Aaron Wise. Clearly has shown that, but I just think that there's this aura built around him that he's better than I personally just think he is. Sung Jae starting at -4. Yes, please. Solid play and through, really solid lately, but in his 3-trip series, not finished much better than like 20th, 15th, stuff like that. JT smashes East Lake. Game's in a bit of a rough spot. Like, here's the thing. If people look at that history and we see that ownership go up through the week, then I'm going to be underweight. But if he's going to come in at like that, almost like that number that we saw last year where he's at like 18, 16, maybe a little bit lower, I'm going to smash. I'm going to go 30%. I'm going to double up. All right. just because I think that, golfers do tend to play well, whatever you believe in course history. I think that golfers tend to play well at courses that they do well at. Who knows if Cam Smith plays? If he does, he's going to be low-owned. Great GPP play. I love Finau. He's number one in all my models. He's perfect course fit. Guy's been playing outstanding golf like all day on him. Burns is interesting. He's a birdie machine. You want to have Valspar, which is tight. You got to be in the fairway. I think it sets up similarly. I like Finau and Burns quite a bit. Rory's my favorite play. Struggled with putter last week. He's going to bounce back. I'm all in on Rory this week. And I'll have more, obviously, breaking down these guys. If you are not a DFS Army VIP, you can use that code UpNorth. That gets you 10% off for life. But I really, really like Rory this week, and I'll expand on that. Rahm's good. Obviously, he's finally played back-to-back really solid. Was putted over his baseline last week, which is a little concerning. But yeah, he's got unfinished business here. He should have been won the FedEx Cup last year if he hadn't had to WD for COVID. Willie Z, who knows? We don't know if he's healthy. We need to see him on course this week. We need to see press conference, see where he's at. Like this is the type of course that that would suit him, right? I think that Will Z is made for major championship type courses. I think East Lake is a major championship type of course. But again, it's all about health. He pulled out last week for his hip. We'll see. Nobody's been better at East Lake than Xander over the years. Like he's a lock and load. If you're playing cash, you just start with Xander Schauffele. All right. Starting at -6, 4 strokes back of Scheffler. Cantlay obviously won last week. That's my one play. Like I'm going to be underweight on Cantlay this week. I just think he didn't in a position to crush last year. He should have, and he didn't. And I think that last week was a little bit of an anomaly given his recent form. Helped playing with Xander every round. I just think that I would rather pay up a little and get Scheffler than Cantlay. I think that this is another great spot for Scheffler. I think that 2-shot lead, I think that this is the year that we see the guy in the lead run away with the big check. I think Scheffler is going to finish this thing at -25 and win by 3 to 4 strokes. So if he does that, you're going to need him in your lineup. So I am big on Scheffler this week. All right, if you want to know who my core plays are this week, right? You want to know all that jazz. You want to know more about the course, more about kind of how I'm constructing lineups. You want to use our optimizer, right? Use that code UpNorth, www.dfsarmy.com. Gets you 10% off a VIP membership, right? You go in for a month, that gets you into NFL, right? Wrapping up baseball, into the playoffs. That gets you all our showdown content for PGA, which has been crushing lately. That gets you our showdown content for NFL. Like, what are you waiting for? Give us a shot. Use that code UpNorth, 10% off VIP membership. Let's go. Hit me up in Slack or not. Oh man, it's been years since we've used Slack. Hit me up in Discord at DFSUpNorth. If you have any questions and you're not a DFS Army VIP, hit me up on Twitter at DFSUpNorth. I'll do my best to answer them, but I'm not giving away my edge on there, right? Got to be a DFS Army VIP. Good luck this week, everybody. Let me know who you think wins in the comments. Let's go.